Previously on Genesis 7, it wasn't as bad as usual. And now, the continuation, where that won't continue.
You're headed to Uranus.
Welcome to episode 9, the Icy World of Uranus. Note that I'm using the American pronunciation of Uranus, so it sounds like it might be about frigid prostates. This will not continue. Irony of ironies, I'm thinking of adding this show to my list of logical arguments against the existence of an all-knowing, all-loving and all-powerful God. I, like all sensible gods, am none of those things. They just breed logical paradoxes and make you responsible for shit like this. Anyway, Priscilla has something important to talk about.
Sir, my polarity field imager is showing that the atmosphere has a layer of magnetic hydrogen.
I know she's 12 or something, but she's meant to be professional something on a science mission. That's like a team of commandos go on a mission and want us to gravely inform the commander that those gun-shaped things that they carry make a noise when the trigger is pulled. So, rather than send the shuttle out to Uranus to do the science stuff, they send a probe. Perhaps this is for a sensible reason, like they haven't got DuckTales crusted shit off the wall after he went crazy during his 4 days trapped in there. Or maybe it's for a fucking mad reason and they think it'd be super gay to touch another planet's anus.
Priscilla, we were looking for a core. There are models of the past that suggest there should be a core, but keep in mind that most of these were derived from evolutionary models.
Ah yes, I remember the sections on the planet Uranus from On the Origin of Species. It was truly riveting reading. To suppose that the planet Uranus, with all its inimitable contrivances for being cold, for being located far from the sun, and for being generally planet-shaped, could have been formed by natural selection seems, I freely confess, absurd in the highest possible degree. I also remember the Lady Hope story where Darwin on his deathbed confessed to inventing Pluto. Luckily Neil deGrasse Tyson put that right a few years ago. Now someone's going to comment that they're referring to planetary evolution, which is about how planets form. I know they are, but they never call it that. They're deliberately conflating planetary evolution with a theory of evolution by means of natural selection, which is commonly just called evolution.
According to evolution, gas giants shouldn't be here at all.
Yet here it is, and it's a little too big to miss.
Evolution is pretty much the code word for scientific area that we really don't like. Or insert audiences unjustified arrogant giggles here. Since they conflate the two, I'm going to keep pretending that they're so fucking stupid as to actually think they're the same thing. Partly because it's shoving the dishonesty back in their fucking faces, and partly because they might actually be that fucking stupid.
There you go again, picking on those poor evolutionists.
Well, it's survival of the fittest, right?
Fittest in that quote was referring to the animal best suited to its environment as is. It was describing the fucking obvious phenomena that it doesn't matter how badass you are at killing or running, if you're in the wrong environment, you will die. Stick a polar bear in the middle of Sahara and the camels will watch its killing abilities mean fuck all. Turn the outback into an ocean and the kangaroos will fucking die. You need to be suited to your environment to survive long enough to reproduce. That is it.
Well, it's survival of the fittest, right?
If survival of the fittest worked the way you think it does, you'd die because you're too stupid to function. The term was coined by a dickhead called Herbert Spencer and was embraced by dickhead social Darwinists, who had less than nothing to do with Darwin. But that's all the quote means when you're talking about evolution. And they keep mentioning evolutionary theory as though it's still a thing, but the pilot indicated it was a bygone relic.
Actually, we must continue studying God's creation to counter that worldview.
Now, in our modern age, it has been rescued once again from Huxley, Darwin, and Sagan.
Maybe there's pockets of holdouts who have yet to accept creationism, but why bring them up? One thing Carl Sagan's sodomizing actual science does not tend to do is give a shit about the people who for whatever reason don't accept it. Unless A, the theory is not really all that settled, in which case it probably wouldn't be a theory but a hypothesis, or B, there's a bunch of deniers with political powers who fuck with their work. But it can't be B because they have a creationism-themed super NASA with at least one deep space exploration vehicle. That sort of thing doesn't get funded if the people who think you're kooks have any level of power. In short, NASA doesn't give a shit about the Flat Earth Society, and this evolution-obsessed lady doth protest too much. No, not that one! Though she doesn't even know the meaning of the word literal.
The data from this drop sound is amazing. The scientists here at Genesis Command are literally falling all over each other at the sheer amount of material to study.
He is a genius, you know.
I think so.
I don't know what that word means. Is it a type of squirrel? Anyway, back to the episode. In a shocking twist, given the name of the episode, they're not at Uranus. They're still at Saturn, and we're almost a quarter of the way through.
Captain, I have your next set of orders from Admiral Croft. You're headed to Uranus.
Good, or the title would be a lie and it'd make little baby Jesus cry. You know, I think I should just stop assuming they're at the planet the episode is named after, just to be safe. I mean, I already stopped assuming they were competent. On the way to Uranus, Probably they play some holo chess, using some really fucking awkward looking control pads played by phones. Why play awkward swipe chess when the board is literally in front of you? Oh yeah, Star Wars reference. Daunton, let the Priscilla win. The funniest thing about this scene is that he's blue and she's red, but most of the time they're controlling each other's pieces. During this scene they mention that Heron of Alexandria here invented the shuttle. I can't remember if they told us that before or if I just assumed it. Anyway, it's another reason that he shouldn't be doing dangerous missions. And I swear he's like the weird love child of Tesla and an uglier Tesla.
Checkmate.
Oh, we found Priscilla's one talent, but I'm pretty sure she got help from whoever's playing that double bass.
Oh, and one thing you might want to think about adding to the little G.
What's that?
A bathroom would be nice.
Well, that makes the last episode a bit more fragrant, doesn't it? No. Observe the power of a bedroom in space. You know, the centuries dead scientists and modern day lamp are just too futuristic for my puny mind. So, I'm glad the room is drowning in black theater curtains. It brings me back to reality.
How do you get along with Lieutenant Abigail?
I don't really know her that well, but she seems nice. Why do you ask?
Well, I was hoping when we get back home you two might spend a little time together. You know, just to get to know one another. I think you'd really like her.
Dude, at least wait until you're off duty to try and set up a threesome with your girlfriend and niece. Anyway, back on Earth, they still haven't suspended the guy that the show clearly thinks is a traitor.
Do you need any help?
No, and I don't want any fucking oranges either. What the fuck are you doing with those things?
No one's allowed on the screen without clearance, Arnold. Which is why I was so upset when I saw you here the other day.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
And apparently they didn't security lock any computers. I say didn't, but I have no idea if they fixed that. So back on the ship, the boy genius has invented a teleporter.
So how do you use this thing anyway?
It reads the preset meals back at Genesis command. Just say what you want and it'll transport it here.
Why is it made out of a tray and part of a projector? That's to make it too shit looking to steal!
Make ham and cheese sandwich.
Well, technically he invented it in the pilot, but still. My current theory about why he's on the mission is that the government is terrified that he's going to become a supervillain and conquer the Earth and are just desperately trying to distract him. Anyway, time for the show to sit up and ignore philosophical questions about the soul.
Make Lieutenant Jennings.
We have found the witch! May we burn her!
Holy crap, Priscilla looks like she wants to start the whole threesome thing without the captain.
I'm not supposed to be here! I know, it's great.
Oh, that's like baby's first Kate McKinnon impersonation. It's almost adorable. So, why is the soul an issue here? Because the transporter breaks someone down into atoms, a process that by our standards would kill them, and then rebuilds them exactly the same. But does the soul go to heaven and then the rebuilt body is soulless? Are there two souls now? Did God send the soul with her? It's a bit similar to the philosophical issues with identical twins and souls. They start out as a single fertilized egg, and if you believe in the soul and that life begins at conception, you need to work out if you think God sent two souls, one split, or if a twin is soulless. Obviously, if you don't believe in the soul, all this is moot. My point is that no one thinks about the twin thing because it's a fact of life. Twins happen, although rationally, if you believe in the soul and the conception thing, there's some sort of an issue, but it's just collectively ignored because it's not that important. But this teleporting is brand new. It was invented by Jericho Nebish, and she's the first living thing to teleport. So the philosophical white noise of the twins question is now burning bright in the teleporter, and until it becomes as commonplace as twins, it's going to be a debate. Remember in the 70s, there were religious leaders arguing that test tube babies, people conceived via in vitro fertilization, would be born without souls because of the lack of traditional conception. Decades later, that's fucking insane, because it is. But it happened. The teleporter will be too useful for people to argue against, and eventually it'll be accepted. How religions define the soul will evolve, and the notion of life and death will change. The human race will absorb this new normal and go on, as it always has. Of course, all that's going to be ignored because it's a fucking dream.
Danton, wake up! Wake up, Danton!
Still, I got to waste a fuckload of time talking about philosophy and transporters. Wasn't that fun?
This is the closest anyone has ever been to Uranus.
With all due respect, sir, that's because I'm not gay.
I was doing some research. The whole thing is spinning on its side.
I know, it's really strange. I think the evolutionists got it wrong.
I think so too. According to their theory, all of the planets should spin in the same direction. That is, if they were formed out of a disk of dust spinning around a central sun.
Evolutionist is usually a derogatory term used to describe someone who accepts the theory of evolution by way of natural selection. It's got nothing to do with how planets got there. Go fuck yourself.
I was reading up on it. They said the particles just stick together, but we know they can't just stick together. There has to be something to make them stick.
The dust would need to be almost still for that to happen. Besides, where did the dust come from to begin with?
All valid questions, just like why does Venus spin the wrong way, and why is Mercury so small?
And why do the gas giants exist at all?
Yeah, the ideal gas law says that as gas compresses, it also pushes back out. So what compressed the gas to form Uranus?
I think God created it like that.
That is as plausible an explanation as any I've heard.
Dumbass hunkies.
And it makes sense to me that God created it all, after everything we've seen.
The Bible says that on day 4 he created the sun, moon, and stars.
One day after creating the vegetation that needs the sun to survive. What a fucking genius. I know the version of the Christian God you guys worship can allegedly do anything except beat up guys with chariots made of iron, but if you are going with him, then why are you trying to do science? You believe in a God who deliberately interacts with his creation. God could have made it one way and made it look like he did it another. You cannot trust reality when God can change either it or your perception of it. It could be a lie from the ground up, and since God decides what's right and wrong and has been known to change his mind about stuff, you can't assume he's telling the truth. Science takes the universe as it appears to be. Nothing more, nothing less. This crew can't do that because they can't trust reality itself. If the nature of the universe might be a lie, then all science can possibly do is shrug its shoulders and try to work out what told the lie. While these idiots would have to believe all the self-contradictory stuff. Their idea of science is a house built on sand by foolish men, and this is the single biggest problem the show has. Well, apart from literally everything else. Anyway, 6 fucking minutes from the end, they finally reach Uranus, and then go to work to celebrate.
Wind speeds are 500 miles per hour and increasing. The atmosphere is made up of hydrogen, helium, ammonia, and methane, and they're all frozen. It's a very cold place.
Truly, Uranus is an icy world, and little baby Jesus is suckling away happily. When they finally get to Uranus, it's time for Dib-Dab-Dob to get into his green screen and press the button labeled Learn Shit via Probe.
Okay, Danton, go ahead.
She's away. The underside camera has a great view, you know. I think this is the best view I've had so far.
I kind of figured you were an ass man. So the probe that Benton invented works so much better than the probes invented back on Earth by Genesis Command, because it's physically impossible for him to not be amazing. And the episode is over. Apparently after you've shoved something into it, Uranus is just that boring. This was really bad. Like I said at the start, episode 8 was the less shit than usual blip in an otherwise perfect record of shitness. They continue to conflate biology and physics, and the dream was just weird.
I came into the kitchen, and Don Han was eating a sandwich because he couldn't sleep, so I asked him if he was homesick because I knew you were, and then I decided I was hungry, so I asked him how the Instameal worked, and he told me, and I told it to give me a ham and cheese sandwich, and it did. It looked so good. Then we talked for a minute, and Danton said he could actually bring Abigail here, and I said, no, you can't. And he said that he could too, it's just atoms. Then he looked at the Instameal and said, jokingly, I think, make Jennings, and poof, here she is.
I don't know if the show is getting more competent or if I'm just losing my patience with it. Earlier episodes were, I assume, accidentally hilarious. This one, apart from the dream, just stinks of death. I hope the next episode is funnier. The only nice thing I can really say about this one is that their apologetics were sometimes shoved into conversations semi-naturally. And that was Genesis 7, and I am so sorry.